Hi, this is RLA Jack here with my first video in my Basics of MATLAB series. So in this video I'm going to cover basic variable handling, some simple operations you can do on just numerical variables in MATLAB, and the very basics of using functions. Okay, so if you're in my RLA session, this is essentially what I covered on Thursday, but not quite. So I will do a few things a little different. So feel free to watch it at double speed. Okay, so you can do very simple things in MATLAB, like math. And this is just the command window, which is how you can type lines of code, like 4 times 5. It'll send it to MATLAB's sort of parser, compiler, whatever you want to call it. And then MATLAB will return an answer to the console, which is sort of another word for the command window. So you could do 4 times 5, you can do 4 times 6, you can do subtraction, like 6 minus 13. MATLAB will do that. It can also play with decimals, and it even has a few constants built in, like pi. So you can do just about anything you would want to do in a calculator. Just with correct syntax, MATLAB follows all of your normal algebra-like, PEMDAS, order of operations conventions. So like if you want to do 4 times 5 plus 6 times 4, or 4 minus 5 times 7, it'll do it right. Okay, so the doing things out here is all good, but you can notice it keeps on outputting these numbers directly as answers. Also, I haven't really shown you how to use variables with this. So let's experiment. Let's multiply two numbers, but use variables to multiply them. So say we have, we want to do 4 times 6. Say we're calling 4 as a, so we can do a equals 4 and b equals 6. You can notice that when we're working in the command window, these numbers up here pop up, and these are just variables in our current workspace, which is sort of this idea of like a set of variables that MATLAB remembers. So we have a equals 4, b equals 6. So what this equal sign is not asking is b equal to 6. It is assigning the value of 6 to the name b. So now anytime I type in b, it will evaluate it as if I was typing in 6. So if I do a times b, it'll evaluate it as 6 times 4, which is 24. If I do a equals a times b, which this may be looked at as an equation by anyone in math, but this equals means assignment, so a is set to the result. So in the end, if you highlight something, it'll run just the highlighted part, which is sort of weird. But now our variable a is set to 24, which is the result of multiplying the old value of a, which was 4, with the old value, or still the value of b, which is 6. There are a few other things you can do with variables. So you're not just limited to normal operations. So of course, right now, a and b. You're also able to use other operations, like taking the minimum of two numbers. So you can't just do times. I might as well show you all of the fundamental ones. So like you can do a plus b, that's 24 plus 6, which is 30. A minus b, a times b, a divided by b. You could do a to the power of b. You can do stuff with parentheses, of course. And yeah, that's pretty much it for like the simplest operations in MATLAB. But you can also use functions. So one function in MATLAB is min. So min. and it'll take the minimum of its two inputs. So if you give it the variable a and b, which a is 24, b is 6, it'll return 6, because 6 is smaller. So this is an example of a function. So if there's some file that says what to do whenever something is given with the word min, followed by parentheses with a and b within the parentheses, where a and b are both just individual variables of like a single number. And MATLAB knows what to do in that case, and it essentially spits it back out as an answer. So if we do something like a is equal to min of a comma b, we'll do that. And a is now 6, which is the lesser of a, which was 24, and b, which was 6. You could also do c is equal to the min of a and a squared. And you can do that. Again, you can play around with variables all day, but this isn't really building to do something larger, to do higher level integration. Before I move off to higher level integration, I might teach you a few basic tricks of MATLAB. So I'm just going to reset a as 3 and b as 7. Suppose that I wanted to set c to the lesser of a and b, but I didn't want to display what c was, as I did here. So what I could do is I could do c is equal to min of a comma b, and then follow that by a single semicolon. What that semicolon does is it tells MATLAB to suppress output. It doesn't print anything, it doesn't tell you what changed because of what happened in this line. It'll just do it in the background. Surely enough, c was previously undefined, but now it is 3. So that's that semicolon. You're gonna write a lot of semicolons in CAM 210. It's gonna be after the vast majority of commands you run. Say you want to know, how to variable c, and you want it to, be the lesser of a to the power of b, or b to the power of a. Semicolon that. Surely enough, c gets changed, and c is 343. I'll teach you how to display a variable while we're at it. So you can just do the variable disp, or function called disp. Now, disp doesn't have like an output like min. Wherever min you pass in your two inputs, it gives you a single output. Disp just gives you, say we just want to disp c, it'll just print to the console, print a single line saying, whatever the value of c is, or whatever the variable representation of that variable you passed it. And you can also just do like disp and the number 243, and yeah, it just displays whatever the best representation is of the value that you passed into it. So a few things about cleaning up your command window experience. So if you want to ask, what variables are there in my command window, you can use either the command who, which says, okay, we currently have the variables a, ants, b, c, and locale struct, or local e struct, I don't know. And that's just listed up there, but sometimes in functions this is useful. Also, whos, W-H-O-S, will give you a lot more information, including the class. A double is just a word for like a matrix or single value or vector of this standard representation of values called a double precision floating point. It just means a decimal. It's a type that can hold decimals and inf and other stuff. And then locale struct is a struct, which is another totally different thing that I don't really even understand. So say you wanted to forget all of your variables in your workspace, you can use the line called clear, and everything is forgotten. If you put a clear in the middle of your function, it will forget all the variables it tells you. And if you're worried, hey, I got a lot of text here, you can use the command CLC, which at the beginning of almost every program that I write, I always do CLC. And there you go. So that's some basic workspace management. Also notice after I wrote clear, if I do whos, you'll see nothing comes up because there are no variables. Alright, so that's pretty much it for very, very basics, just writing simple command line stuff, setting variables, how those are handled, doing some basic operations like plus, minus, times, exponent, divide, parentheses, and also for some basic workspace management and the all-important semicolon and your basic usage of functions. Of course, it all gets very complicated later. You might pass like matrices into functions. You might be doing far more complicated functions than min, and actually min is far more complicated than I even said it was. This is just what happens when you give two like numbers to min. Other than that, the sky's the limit. These basic ideas I gave today pretty much hold true to every other line of MATLAB code that you write. So I hope that this helps, and I hope that this was a solid foundation to start on. I'll be back for episode 2, which is going to be the basics of functions. Alright guys,